So Rhonda Mims, who's the president of the ING Foundation, is going to come up and moderate our next panel, and it's going to be in relation to their partnership with Girl Up. And so Gina, the executive director of Girl Up, come up with panelists. And I have to tell you that it is a pleasure certainly to see a lot of folks here, but certainly even more, Gina and I have worked together and continue to try to see how our companies can really support her in her efforts. And so I'm very interested to see, Rhonda, what you all have done with ING and how other companies can get involved in really empowering students. And it's exciting to have some of the students here to be able to talk for themselves. So please, ladies.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, that's much better. Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here today to moderate this panel. But before we begin and I introduce my esteemed panelists, I would like to show a video that I think demonstrates the importance of this issue. So, Sarah, if you could begin us with the video. Hey. You know, that video came out a couple of years ago, and I'm sure some of you in the audience have seen it before, but every time I see it, it reminds me of why this issue is so important. It's extremely important for us to empower girls and ultimately make them strong women. So today I want to talk about just that, why we are focused on empowering women. At ING, obviously, we try to make sure that people have a secure financial future, and ultimately, we try to reach out to women because many of them are leading households and making some of those decisions. But ultimately, we just want to make the world a better place. And so we partner with organizations like the ones that are sitting here on the stage. And so at this time, I really would like to thank them for the work that they've been doing over the last few years, but I also want to introduce them. So I'll start with the woman sitting right next to me. This is Judy Vredenburgh. And Judy is the president and CEO of Girls, Inc. Next to Judy is a young lady named Bianca Lewis. Bianca is vice president of the ING Girls, Inc. Investment Challenge, a program that you'll hear a little bit about later. But she's also a rising junior at the Urban Assembly Institute of Math and Science for Young Women in Brooklyn. Next to Bianca is Gina Reiss-Wilchins. and I try not to butcher her name each time I say it, but Gina is very special in that she has been an advocate for women and girls and those who are underserved for a number of years. And Gina is currently the executive director of Girl Up. And next to Gina is Avery Winthrop McCall. Avery is a teen advisor for Girl Up, and she's based in Chicago, Illinois, and is actually a straight A student in the 8th grade. So with that, I'm going to ask Gina and Judy to share with us a little bit about your organizations, and then I'll turn to Bianca and Avery.
Good morning. I have the pleasure to work full-time to help equip girls to navigate those very real gender, economic, and social barriers to growing up. To growing up, as we say at Girls Inc., strong, smart, and bold, healthy, educated, and independent. We do our work, it's after-school and summer programming through a network of 83 affiliates across the United States and a few in Canada. We served 130,000 girls with impact, measurable impact, as you'll soon see one example of. We do that through creating a pro-girl, girl-only environment delivered by highly trained professionals, supported by volunteers. We have ING volunteers in the case of our investment challenge. And we use very intentional research-based programming to make the transformation in their lives. The ING Investment Challenge is an absolutely terrific example of how we do our work. Our girls become investors, in fact, savvy investors at a very young age, and the program really builds that knowledge and confidence with huge lifelong impact for their futures. Our Girls Inc. girls come from families in normally pretty tough economic circumstances and other circumstances. Over 70% of our girls come from family incomes of $30,000 or less, and they become the first in their families not only to graduate from high school, of course, but to go on to post-secondary and graduate from college is our aspiration. And this is our path towards education, seeing the connection between education and lifelong economic self-sufficiency.
So Gina, if you will talk about a little bit about Girl Up.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for having me, Rhonda and Shannon. Appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel and talk about the work at the United Nations Foundation with Girl Up. Most of you may recall back in 1998, the entrepreneur Ted Turner founded the United Nations Foundation with a historic $1 billion gift. He and the board of directors have been committed to the issues of adolescent girls and women since then. Girl Up is a culmination of that commitment and $46 million invested in the adolescent girl space on programs and policies. The Girl Up campaign is an innovative campaign of the United Nations Foundation that works with adolescent American girls, 13 to 18 years old, helping them channel their amazing compassion and energy into raising awareness and funds for UN programs on the ground for some of the world's hardest to reach adolescent girls. We are in Ethiopia, Malawi, Guatemala, and Liberia, and our girls are 235,000 strong. And we have 100 clubs around the country, including 7 other countries, including countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and Pakistan. It's girls like Avery and Bianca that fuel this campaign. It is a for-girl, by-girls campaign. Everything gets driven by their agenda, what advocacy issues they want to work on, their fundraising. We call them the philanthro-teen. They are social entrepreneurs and innovators and volunteers. They're starting clubs in their own communities. They are coming from all socioeconomic backgrounds. One of our largest clubs right now is in East LA with 40 members. These girls are doing fundraisers on their birthday. Avery's actually going to probably talk about her walkathon this weekend. Some of the innovative things that we're doing right now is at the end of last year, we just did our first Twitter party. And we hooked up our girls here around the world with a village in Uganda. and it amounted to a modern-day pen pal system where the pen and paper was replaced by a laptop and a smartphone, and we were able to bring in with our champions and our girls 1.5 million people to the party to have a dialogue about just everyday things. What is on teenagers' minds? What are the peer pressures they're dealing with, and how are they dealing with you know, everyday ups and downs of being a teenager? So I will stop there, and we'll go from there. I could go on forever. Sorry.
Thanks, Judy and Gina. So I guess I'll ask our young representatives. Bianca, how did you become involved with Girls Inc.?
Hi. I started Girls Inc. when I first came to my school in 6th grade, and it started by having group discussions in class about what bothers us in class and what problems we face in school and how we could overcome it as girls, as young girls growing up in New York City. So that's how I became involved with Girls Inc., and from there it just progressed into the investment team, and then later leading on to other activities and programs in my school.
So Avery?
Hi. So I first heard about Girl Up last year, and I immediately knew that I had to be part of this amazing organization. The thing that really stood out to me about Girl Up was that it was actually connecting teen girls in the United States with girls in developing countries. So many other organizations that I had come across were only focusing on adults, even if they were trying to tackle youth issues. And so I was very shocked when I came across Girl Up, and I knew I had to be part of the campaign. And so I applied to be a teen advisor, and I had no expectation of getting the position, and thankfully I got it. And so now my role is to make speeches and attend events, and these events are events where I can lend the perspective of a teen working with Girl Up or help engage other youth my age with Girl Up. And our job is also to host events where we will either raise awareness or fundraise for Girl Up, and I'll be talking about one of my events a little later.
Since you started down that path, let me ask you this question. There are so many other things that you could get involved with, especially as an 8th grader. So why did you choose to get engaged with the girls' empowerment movement?
I really got involved in women's rights when I read the book Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wudon. And if you haven't read it, definitely read it. When I read it, I was absolutely appalled by the atrocious things that so many girls and women were facing around the world. And these are things like obstetric fistulas and rape and sex trafficking. We rarely hear about these issues in the United States. And after I finished this book, I couldn't live with myself knowing that these things were happening and just sit by and let them happen. I had to stand up, and I had to make a change, even if it was the most microscopic change ever, but I knew I had to do something. So ever since then, I've been on a mission to help girls, and I don't know, it's just kind of my personality. Once I get hooked on something, I have to keep going and I have to follow through, and it's been my passion for the last 2 years now, and I really hope to be able to continue doing this for the rest of my life.
Bianca, I know that you and I have met several times, actually, because Bianca is one of our star students within the ING Girls Inc. Investment Challenge, and we're not going to do a commercial here, but I do want you to share with the audience what the program is about and why you're involved with the Investment Challenge, and typically what do you do in the Investment Challenge, because it's not every day that a junior in high school gets an opportunity to invest a $50,000 virtual portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about what that's all about and how that makes you feel.
I just want to say I was honored when I got to find out that I was a team advisor to manage $50,000 to invest. The experience was really great. The process of working with my fellow classmates that I see every day, and to use a portfolio and to manage that portfolio and to have group discussions and make decisions that would really impact our growth was really a fun experience. And when I came across this program, I knew I had to follow up on it. I knew I had to continue with it, and I knew I had to stay strong and help my peers as a team advisor to make these decisions. And the experience of managing this virtual account was a big responsibility, a huge responsibility. A lot of commitment, a lot of cooperation, because not all the time that we all agreed on the same thing. And the fact that we were all able to make our own decisions and then come together to make a final decision as a group, it was a really great experience.
So just so everybody understands, the investment challenge is really an opportunity for girls and across the nation to invest money into a virtual portfolio. And luckily for them, it happened during a time when the economic crisis was in place. So they've gotten considerable revenue returns. And in fact, at the end of this year, they will receive the proceeds toward a scholarship. Toward continuing their education. So it's a connection to the Girls Inc.'s affiliates around the United States. But in any event, I want to ask Judy at this time to share a little bit more about some of the big wins that you guys have had at Girls Inc. in terms of empowering girls to be successful, to be smart, to be bold, to be strong, all the things that Girls Inc. is all about.
Thank you. In fact, we understand the conversation which we've had a little bit earlier today about the preparing young people to compete in the global economy, particularly having talent and competencies in math and engineering and science. Girls Inc. has a long history of focusing on what we call Operation SMART, science, math, and relevant technology, to overcome those assumptions that girls cannot do well in math and science, don't have interest in math and science. And so I believe that innovative work where we, in a very hands-on experiential way, give our girls a chance to get dirty, to make mistakes, to experiment in a really supportive environment. And in fact, our girls go on to be involved, let's say, in first a robotics competition and build their own websites, and it's really a pathway to see that they can become engineers and scientists. You probably know that women are represented in half, less than 50% of all scientists and engineers today are women, and women of color, African American women, are 1% of the country's scientists and engineers, and women who are Latina women are 1%. So Girls Inc. is part of the pathway to help encourage women to pursue math and science. Bianca Bailey, also the name Bianca, is one of our alums. She just graduated from Howard University as a chemical engineer. She grew up at one point homeless. Her mom died in a drug-related incident at 2 years old. She came to Girls Inc. and was exposed to our Operation SMART, realized that she had talent and interest in math, went to a science magnet school, public school in Dallas, and is now entering the Carnegie Mellon PhD program in chemical engineering. She is devoting her life to finding new sources of clean water for developing countries. She received the White House Champions of Change Innovation Award for her work this past summer in Africa in the area of nanotechnology. And a great, maybe extreme example of the work that Girls Inc. Does and the kind of transformational work, but rooted in our belief that we have to bust those myths, those stereotype messages that girls cannot become financial analysts, and Bianca's very modest. Her team has had a 45% growth in their portfolio. Thank you, over 3 years. It's huge, huge accomplishment. They would, yes.
So Gina, there appears to be all kinds of challenges facing, young women and girls around the globe. What can we do to assist with the Girls Up movement, and then also talk a little bit about, what you guys are doing to help solve some of these issues? Avery referenced, sex trafficking, some of the health concerns. So I know that you kind of gave your platform around what Girl Up is all about, but we in the audience obviously want to do what we can.
Yeah, just to clarify, on the investments we make in the UN programs to these 4 countries currently, we take a very comprehensive approach in our investments, and we look at 5 pillars of a girl's life. We look at how she's being educated, how she's staying safe, how she's becoming healthy, how she's becoming a leader, and how she is being counted. So we're very mindful. Back in 2007, I believe it was, the UN Adolescent Task Force, this is when 7 of the UN agencies came together, and they all agreed to prioritize adolescent girls across their own expertise and mandates. So when we invest into programs on the ground in, say, Ethiopia, we're working usually with a UN agency, a lead UN agency, that's also collaborating with other UN agencies so that we can hit all these pillars that affect a girl's life. Some of the challenges that we faced internally just with this campaign, which is actually a good challenge to have, but for me, as coming in as the new director, you know, the growing numbers of the constituents of the girls who want to get involved in this campaign has been off the charts. I mean, when I came in, my boss expected us to get 100,000 constituents engaged, and you know, before the end of the year, we were close to 200,000. And I think it's the outrage that you heard from Avery. I mean, these girls, we know they're outraged. We know, they know that these girls in those countries have the same dreams, aspirations, and hopes, and talents, and skills, but they just don't have the same opportunities to get educated. One of the issues that we're taking on in a very big way in the next 18 months is child marriage. And I hope most of you know that the Senate just passed the Child Marriage Act, and we're very excited about it. Our girls played a very big role in lending their voices to that. Yes, it's, and talking about a big win, we're very excited. And we're really looking at the programs on the ground and how we invest in, you know, when a girl is married before she's 18 years old, she's less likely to continue her education. She's more vulnerable to violence and health complications because oftentimes she is younger than her body would permit her to have a baby. So, and just to put it out there, just as I'm on my little soapbox for child marriage, because it's one of those issues that actually get me up and motivate me every day, is 27,000 girls will be married every single day against their will. And most likely they could be as young as my daughter, who's 5 years old, to a man 3 or 4 times her age. And we should be ringing the bell, and we should all be just screaming at the top of our lungs that this is not acceptable, that girls should be able to be girls, they should be able to stay in school, they should be educated, and they should be healthy and safe. So what we're trying to do is also connect to these girls. There's a hunger for girls like Avery to connect with the girls like Tigist, who I met in Ethiopia, who herself got on a bus from the rural setting in Ethiopia, which most girls do to escape a child marriage. She was 14 years old. Her father arranged for her to be married. She got on a bus. She got into Addis. Oftentimes, girls get off at the bus stop. They're either going to fall into sex trafficking situations or they're going to be in a domestic labor situation. Lucky for Tigist, she found one of our mentors who literally stand at the bus stop to help identify these girls. Talk to their employers. She did end up in a domestic labor situation, but she was able to get into our program called the Baratesva program. We invested with the Counter Rural program with the Nike Foundation back in 2005 called Berhani Huwan, and it helped delay 11,000 girls from being married. So the connection between Avery and Tigist is so important. For us, our goal in life is to create that pipeline. We actually just did our first Skype call with the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy. We had 20 of the girls from that school on a Saturday night in Africa meet with our girls. It was a Saturday morning in DC, and had a chance to really connect. So that's some of the challenges that we're dealing with and excited about as well to tackle.
So Avery, just tell us, what are you most proud of as being a teen advisor for Girl Up?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of has been my ability to raise awareness for Girl Up. I feel that I have been able to sort of spread Girl Up to the far corners of my community. And one of the biggest ways that I have done this is by hosting a walkathon, which is actually going to be this Sunday. And for this walkathon, we have about 85 people who have signed up and pledged to walk 3 miles on the sidewalks of my community. And in addition, they're also fundraising for Girl Up. And even if someone is not walking in this walkathon, they will definitely see Girl Up because it's going to be a huge pack of 85 people wearing Girl Up shirts. So I hopefully think people will take notice. And the first big thing that I did to get people to rally around this walkathon was make a presentation at my school. I have about 500 students at my school, and I made a 45-minute presentation about Girl Up, the issues that girls are facing and how Girl Up is helping. And the first day, 80 students and teachers signed up for the walkathon, and that really proved to me that so many students and youth have the passion to make a change, but they just don't know how to, and so that's one of the great things about Girl Up. And so in addition, I've also had the opportunity to have 2 articles in my local newspaper, and that has really helped spread the word about this walkathon. And I've had random strangers come up to me and say, I saw you in the newspaper, this is an amazing organization, we'll try to walk, but if we're unable to, we'd definitely like to support you in any way that we can. And so it's been a really amazing experience, and hopefully we don't have any major blips this Sunday, but so far it's looking good. And I hope to find similar ways to do this in other communities in my area.
Well, I know that we're just about out of time, and we could probably talk about empowering girls forever, but I have one final question for Bianca and Avery, and that is, if in fact you were, chosen to be on the cover of a magazine, which magazine would you choose and why? Who wants to start?
I'll probably choose People's Magazine, but leave it to me, I'll probably create my own magazine. And a magazine about girl empowerment, how girls can be active in their society. Managing a portfolio of $50,000 is not easy. And the fact that I'm only 15 and the people of my investment team, they're about my age, to see us manage $50,000 and to get compliments from older people who are also investors, it makes me feel proud that I'm doing something right and that I'm learning and I can use my knowledge to help me in the future.
Well, when Bianca starts her magazine, I'd like to be on the cover of that. But for now, I would probably say 17 because I'm slightly obsessed with that. And I think that a lot of girls read that magazine, and I've seen little articles about how you can get involved and you can give back. And I think I take notice of that, and I think a lot of other girls do as well. And so I think that's a really great way to kind of spread the message about how youth is powerful and we can make a change, and you just need to find what you're passionate about and just go for it, even if someone tells you you can't. So.
Well, thank you all for your time. You guys rock. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.